So today we are diving into something that has really taken the internet by storm. It's the whole Asmongold situation.
Yeah, it's really blown up.
It's gotten huge and kind of morphed into something even bigger, wouldn't you say?
Definitely, yeah.
So like we've got apologies, career changes. I mean, the guy's even promising to clean his room.
Yeah, who would seen that coming?
Not me.
And it brings up so many questions about like what it even means to have a platform these days, you know?
What you can say, what you can't say.
Exactly. Like where do you draw the line?
It's a big deal, and I think people are really paying attention. But before we get into all that, let's get everyone on the same page.
Mhm.
So Asmongold, he's like a massive name on Twitch,
Huge,
known for, let's just say, not holding back on his opinions.
to put it mildly.
Right. So during one of his streams earlier this month, he said some, shall we say, inflammatory things about Palestinians.
Yeah, and I mean, the internet exploded as it tends to do.
Oh, yeah. People were calling him out left and right. Even other big names in the gaming community were like, not cool, dude.
And rightfully so. Some of what he said was seriously problematic. It really had that potential to be seen as, like, straight up hate speech.
Yeah, and Twitch thought so too, because they ended up hitting him with a 2-week ban.
Which honestly wasn't that surprising given how seriously Twitch is taking these sorts of things these days.
Yeah, they're definitely cracking down. But here's where things take an unexpected turn. Instead of, digging in or deflecting like we see so often with these online blowups.
Oh, tell me about it. It's like everyone's got a PR playbook these days.
Seriously. But Asmongold does something pretty much unheard of. He releases a 20-minute apology video. On YouTube, no less.
20 minutes, not just a quick sorry, didn't mean it tweet.
Nope. A full-on, sit-down, talking to the camera apology. That's a statement right there.
It's definitely not something you see every day, that's for sure.
So what did he actually say in this now infamous apology?
He did not hold back, like, at all. He straight up admitted that his words were disgusting, mean-spirited, even went as far as to call his own behavior psychopathic.
Wow. Okay, so he's really laying it on thick here.
Yeah.
Did he actually use the R word? Like, did he actually call himself racist?
He didn't go quite that far, but he did acknowledge that regardless of his intent.
Because intent matters. Everyone's all about intent these days.
Sure, but as he kind of admitted himself, intent and impact aren't always the same thing. And in this case, the impact of his words was, well,
Not great.
to put it mildly, he owned that. He basically said, my words were harmful, and that's on me.
Hmm.
Which honestly, you got to give him some credit for. There aren't a lot of people, especially in the public eye, who are willing to do that these days.
That's true. It's kind of refreshing, actually. Even if it doesn't erase what he said, it at least shows a willingness to, like, reflect and maybe even change. Or at least that's how some people saw it.
Yeah, you're right. Not everyone was buying it. There were plenty of people, especially those who already had issues with Asmongold and his particular brand of commentary.
Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
Often inflammatory and sometimes offensive.
Right. They saw this whole apology as a calculated move, like damage control 101.
My career's in trouble. Better do some quick reputation rehab.
Exactly. And it's hard to argue with that perspective entirely, you know? Like, we've seen this playbook before.
Oh, absolutely. And the timing right after the Twitch ban, it definitely adds fuel to that fire.
For sure. And then there's the whole other layer of, like, his fan base.
Oh, yeah, we can't forget about them. They're a vocal bunch.
To say the least. And they're not exactly known for their nuanced takes on things.
So how did they take all of this? The apology, the stepping down, the whole shebang?
It was a mixed bag. As you can
Nice.
imagine, you had some, especially those who really vibe with his right-leaning views on things like, diversity and inclusion in gaming.
Which, by the way, has become such a loaded term these days. Woke. Like, what does it even mean anymore?
Right. Everyone's got their own definition, which just makes it even more impossible to have a productive conversation about. But anyway, yeah, some of his fans saw the apology as a betrayal, like he was selling out or caving to pressure.
Which is kind of ironic considering his whole persona is built on this idea of, like, speaking his mind no matter what.
The irony is not lost on me.
But it speaks to this larger issue of, like, what happens when someone who's built their career on being provocative and pushing boundaries.
And let's be real, sometimes crossing those boundaries.
Right. Suddenly tries to walk it back and say, okay, maybe I went too far.
It's a tough sell, especially to an audience that's used to you being a certain way.
It's almost like they feel betrayed, like you said.
Exactly. And that makes this whole Asmongold situation such a fascinating case study in, like, the power and peril of online fame.
Because he's not just dealing with, like, one issue here. he's got multiple layers of complexity to navigate.
Oh, absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see how he handles it all moving forward.
So, like, what happens now? He's banned from Twitch, he's stepping down from OTK, and he's going to clean his room,
Mm.
supposedly.
Yeah, the internet seems awfully invested in that last one.
Right, like, can you imagine if he comes back and it's still a disaster? The memes would be legendary.
Oh, absolutely. But memes aside, the big question is, what about the content? Like, can he really go back to business as usual after all this?
Yeah, like he's made it clear he still wants to talk about these hot button topics.
Yeah.
DEI, wokeness, all that.
Which is interesting, right? Because on the one hand, you could see it as him being like, I messed up, but I'm not backing down from my beliefs.
But on the other hand, it's like, okay, you're saying you want to change, you want to be more thoughtful, so how are you actually going to do that?
It's a fine line to walk, that's for sure. And honestly, it's something that a lot of content creators struggle with, especially as they grow and their audiences become more diverse.
Because the internet is not exactly known for nuance and understanding, is it?
Not really. So it'll be interesting to see how Asmongold navigates this moving forward. Like, can he find a way to talk about these issues in a way that's, I don't know, less inflammatory, more open to dialogue? Or is he just going to fall back into old habits?
And I think a lot of people are going to be watching closely.
Oh, yeah. The internet never forgets.
Right, so it's not just his fans he has to worry about. It's like sponsors, Twitch itself, everyone's got an opinion these days.
And they're not afraid to share it. But I think this whole situation also speaks to a larger issue, which is the power and influence of online personalities in general.
Because it's not just entertainment anymore, right?
Hmm.
These people have massive platforms, they shape opinions, they influence culture.
And yet there's still this weird gray area of like, how much responsibility do they have for that influence?
It's a tough question, and honestly, I don't think there's an easy answer. But it's definitely something worth thinking about.
For sure. And I think the Asmongold situation is a perfect example of why this conversation is so important. Because it's not just about him, it's about all of us and how we engage with online culture.
Well, on that note, we're going to have to wrap it up there. This has been quite the deep dive, and as always, it's left us with more questions than answers.
It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. But that's the internet for you, right? Always evolving, always something new to talk about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the wild world of online personalities and the ever-evolving landscape of digital discourse.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your fellow internet denizens. Until next time, stay curious.